I'm Cindy Bertram. Thanks for joining me today on Good Ship Happens. And a lot of good things that are going on in the cruise industry. Last week, I actually attended Cruise World, which is a national conference. It's held every year since 2010. I actually presented workshops when they first did it. And it's a great conference. They have a lot of travel people there. Cruise lines are there. They do presentations. They actually do some interviews with the cruise line executives, which is great, and sharing updates, which is so good as far as shifts, what they're doing, sustainability efforts too. So I was there last week. It was great and good to come back to. But anyway, as far as some things that have been happening too, of course, we had the sad things that came up as far as Israel. Okay. But what one cruise line has done, Royal Caribbean Group, which has Royal Caribbean Cruises, Celebrity Cruises, and they've got Silver Sea Cruises. What they did was they actually, this was back on October, early part of October, what they did was they actually evacuated U.S. citizens from Israel to Cyprus on one of their ships, Rhapsody of the Seas. And this is an effort that the CEO of Royal Caribbean Group, Jason Liberty, mentioned was an incredible effort. But how wonderful that they did that to evacuate those people. And once again, it was just great because once again they've got safety protocols on board their ships, and they want to provide free passage, including accommodations and food for Americans that were in that region want to get out and go to a safer place. But what a great gesture that Royal Caribbean group did, and once again, they didn't mention how many people were actually on the Rhapsody Seas, but once again, Royal Caribbean was one of many cruises that actually have been altering their itinerary since the October 7th surprise attack on Israel. But once again, what a great gesture. So I wanted to share that too, because it's just a positive thing that goes on all the time in the cruise industry. They help out in different ways, and a great example of good ship happens. Yes, in a real way, though, too. And something else that is very important too, we have a special holiday coming up tomorrow, Veterans Day. And with Veterans Day, of course, we want to honor our veterans from different generations, from the different wars, World War II, Vietnam War, etc. But once again, there are travel companies, including cruise lines, that do wonderful things for veterans. Another thing that has come up too is Southwest Airlines has actually had a partnership with the Honor Flight Network. I don't know if you've ever heard of the Honor Flight, but it's a fantastic way for veterans to actually go to Washington, D.C. for the day, explore different things. They're escorted around, and it's complimentary, and they volunteer to help out. They've been doing this for quite a while, and my father actually had a chance to do the Honor Flight in the fall of 2019. What they did was one of the volunteers actually picked my dad up at his house, took him to the airport. He flew out of Chicago Midway on Southwest Airlines, and they got him to Washington, D.C. They were there around Washington, D.C. They took him different places, provided meals, whatever, escort him. And then what I did was, my mother didn't go with, but I did was I picked my mother and took her to the airport, dropped her off, parked my car, came back, and then we were there when they did this celebration event when people on that honor flight flew back in from Washington, D.C. It was a wonderful, wonderful experience. My dad was able to travel the world, but he flat out said it was one of the best trips he's ever done, too. Southwest Airlines does have a partnership with the Honor Flight Network, too, and they've been there for a while because my dad flew on Southwest Airlines to do his honor flight back in 2019. Something else that came up, too, is because we're speaking about Veterans Day, is cruise lines do different things that they provide to veterans. One example is with Princess Cruises. What they've done is for active, veteran, and retired military personnel, they actually get up to a $250 free shipboard onboard spending credit on board any Princess Cruise. Once again, too, something else that they do too is they have special military discounts. So once again, if you are a veteran or if you're a travel advisor booking a veteran, please check into that too, because once again, they provide military discounts for veterans, which is great. And as far as cruise lines, they all do it in one way or another. I know Carnival Cruise Line does, Norwegian Cruise Line does. Their sister companies do. Princess Cruises does, of course, too. Royal Caribbean, Celebrity Cruises, Disney Cruise Line, MSC Cruises, with Holland America Line. They actually have a special military appreciation offer. Cunard Line is another one. But once again, it's a way to really, really, I think, honor our veterans in different ways. And they do get military discounts. Because I did check it out one time for my parents. They like to sail on Princess Cruises. My dad was a veteran, so they were able to get a special little military discount too, which is great. And what a great way to really recognize and celebrate our veterans. So please keep that in mind. And also remember that tomorrow is Veterans Day. So let's please celebrate and honor our veterans in a very, very special way, because once again, they did some wonderful things to really help save our country, the United States of America, in different ways, whether they served in Vietnam, World War II, whatever. But once again, it's just a great way to really honor our veterans. And once again, cruise lines do this. They really do. And a good example, of course, is an honor flight, which they offer several times a year. I know Southwest Airlines has partnered with them. There are probably other airlines they use too. But once again, keep that in mind too, because it was great to really be there for the welcome and reception back at Midway Airport. I mean, I came back from that flight, and it was just great. They had music, procession, whatever. It was really great. So keep that in mind too. If you know a veteran, make sure they check into that honor flight. They can apply. It's an easy process to do too, but please keep that in mind too, because once again, they have a chance to see beautiful Washington, D.C., and there's no cost. So keep that in mind. As far as news going on in the cruise industry, it's been a fun week. One thing that came up is Celebrity Cruises has their new ship, the Celebrity Ascent, that's going to be coming out, sailing, should be christened on December 1st. What they did, though, is they just did an official delivery of the Celebrity Ascent at Chantier de l'Antique shipyard in France. And once they did, they officially took delivery of the ship, and she will be actually now sailing over to the United States. Then she will be doing like a short little preview type thing. Then she's going to be christened and named on December 1st. She's the ship that has the two co-godmothers, which is great. And so definitely, I think keep that in mind too, because that's just wonderful too. So keep that in mind. Also, Celebrity Cruises just announced they've got their next, they call them their Edge class ships, but they just are doing their next Edge class ship, and I think it's pronounced CXL, I think, but it's XCEL, Celebrity Cruise Line ship too. So that's good to know too. Something else that comes with that too is when you go on a cruise ship, and in my case, I got hooked on cruising the very first cruise I took. Yes, a long time ago in the late 1980s. But back then, they really didn't have a way to actually book a future cruise on board the ship. But now they do. Cruise lines started doing this, I think, back in the 1990s. And when you're on board the ship, you can actually have a special area if you want to maybe book a future cruise. Don't pick the actual sailing date if you don't want to, but you can actually go to the future cruise desk on board your existing cruise and get something booked. You put down a down payment. And what they do is they actually have some special perks they give you too. And also, if you have booked your current cruise you're on with a travel advisor, travel agent, once again, if you book a future cruise on board the ship you're on, it immediately goes back to the travel advisor you're dealing with too, which is great too. So keep in mind that too, because once again, you're still working with your travel advisor, and you also get some special perks and things too for doing that too. I've done that before too. It was very worthwhile too. So definitely keep that in mind. And one statistic I just came across today was actually with Virgin Voyages. Virgin Voyages mentioned that almost half of their sailors, they call their guests sailors, okay, actually put down a deposit for future cruise. They just announced that statistic today, which is great. So once again, if you're taking a cruise, and maybe you're thinking about maybe taking up another cruise on that cruise line, usually they have a future cruise desk. You can go there, discuss possibilities, and even if you don't pick up a specific sailing, put a deposit down. You get a little perks too. As mentioned, if you already booked your first cruise, or the cruise you're on with a travel advisor, and immediately that booking future cruise goes back to the travel advisor you're dealing with too. So keep that in mind too, because that's really a fun way to get some extra little perks and fun things too. And then something else is we've seen a surge as far as people sailing by themselves. And a good example is, before, if you sail by yourself on a cruise, usually you had to pay double the cost because, once again, they really didn't have single staterooms. They would double the cost, charge you twice. But we've seen a big surge in different things too. And one thing that Norwegian Cruise Line kind of led was they actually have their solo stateroom area. I actually was sailing on a cruise myself, I think in 2013 perhaps. Something came up, person I was going to sail with couldn't go. But anyway, I had actually booked a solo stateroom, just going to explore it myself. Then they actually upgraded me. But with a solo stateroom, you got your own stateroom areas. All the people there have their own their own staterooms, of course, in the air. Plus, they've got a really beautiful lounge, whatever. You still have access to the rest of the ship to it, and they don't charge you double, which is great. One thing that I know Norwegian Cruise Line just made they just mentioned was they've actually made a move this month to double the number of single person cabins, staterooms. And this was actually the largest cruise industry recognition of the increasing strength when it comes to the solo travel market. And cruise lines and really, I think, travel agencies have seen a tick as far as the bookings from single travelers, and also leading more cruise lines maybe to think about designating certain cabin staterooms officially for guests traveling by themselves too. And it's really, I think, great to think about that too, because once again, solo travel has to be very popular when it comes to women. It's even gotten more attention since the pandemic because, once again, with demand, it's there, and it's just another way to kind of think about that too. And also, as mentioned, I know that with Norwegian Cruise Line, they've got their solo stateroom areas, and they're adding more of those too. They just announced that, and they got their beautiful studio lounge, which is their private lounge for people staying in the solo staterooms. And what they're doing now too is they just mentioned that looks like they're going to expand access to the studio lounge on Norwegian Cruise Lines for the solo travelers in staterooms, and it's part of their studio complex, which is great too. And also, I really think with this angle, as far as sailing by yourself, it really is a way to connect with other people too. I mean, what was really good too is, even though I didn't have a solo stateroom, I got upgraded. We had the studio lounge. You could meet people at different events there too, which is great. And like I said, with cruising, it really is a community of friends too. And once again, you tend to see that cruise lines also sometimes have special discounts for people that are sailing by themselves. So once again, it's just something to kind of think about in the future, because once again, with solo travelers, they prefer to be in their stateroom, which is fine, but they don't want to pay double the cost. But once again, we're seeing a surge as far as with Norwegian Cruise Line adding more solo staterooms to their ships coming out. Also, what's great too is other cruise lines too have been doing some wonderful things as far as offering some single rates too for people maybe traveling by themselves. You just have to check out that in advance too, because once again, it's a great way to really take a ship, kind of sail by yourself, but enjoy different things, meet different people. Because once again, when you're on board the ship, it's a great way to meet fantastic people. You can enjoy the entertainment, different people in the lounges, whatever, and different choices. So definitely keep that in mind, because once again, having done it myself, didn't have a solo stateroom myself, but I had a special upgrade. But it was great to experience it by myself, and I wrote about it when I came back too. So it was really fun to do that too. So, but definitely keep that in mind. We've got some wonderful things coming out, as mentioned, with Veterans Day. We need to appreciate our veterans now more than ever. They do wonderful things, and cruise lines do offer special military discounts for people that have served in the military, which is great to know too. And once again, definitely keep in mind that wonderful Honor Flight, the Honor Flight Network, just check into it. Because as mentioned, my father had a chance to do it. I've got another business friend whose dad was a veteran. He had a chance to do it himself, which is great. But they do it ongoing. Obviously, when COVID-19 hit it in 2020, they had to postpone it. But once again, the honor flights are flying, and they take veterans to Washington, D.C. for the day, and they cover all the costs. There's really no cost involved for the veteran itself. You just have to apply for it, provide some quick documentation, but it's not complicated. So definitely keep that in mind as we think and move forward with Veterans Day too. But that's just wonderful, I think, too, because cruise lines offer these military discounts too. So keep that in mind. Mark, do you have any questions for me or not yet? Because we've got new ships coming out too. As mentioned, the Celebrity Ascent Cruises just took possession of that ship. She's not sailing yet. She's going to be sailing from Europe over to the United States. And then in December, on December 1st, is her actual official christening ceremony. And that'll be taking place in Fort Lauderdale, where she's going to be sailing from year-round, I believe. And then maybe going back to the Mediterranean. But that was really a wonderful thing that they're doing, too, because people don't know that. And as mentioned, another ship that was just officially sailing was actually, we've got, let's see, it's Atlas Ocean Voyages. They just actually acquired their third ship, which was just christened too, I believe, and she's sailing right now. She will be offering some cruises to Antarctica, which is great. So definitely keep that in mind, because once again, we have a lot of new ships coming out. Yes, with the Atlas Ocean Voyages, their World Voyager, which is their third ship, was just christened in Argentina, and she's now beginning her deployment for the 2023-2024 Antarctica sailings too, which is great. So once again, keep that in mind too, because we have new ships coming out and more coming out next year. Sun Princess is one. That's Princess Cruises' new ship, which is great. And also, of course, when you talk about Royal Caribbean, Icon of the Seas, which is Royal Caribbean's newest ship, will actually be coming out in end of January 2024. She's actually the largest cruise ship ever being built. And what they did was they just announced, Royal Caribbean just announced that their second Icon class ship, they've got a name for it. She will be named Star of the Seas. And it's going to be their second Icon class ship, Star of the Seas. She's scheduled to debut actually in the summer of 2025. And the Star of the Seas is the second vessel that is really the sister ship of the Icon of the Seas. But once again, what they're doing is they're taking some inspiration from Royal Caribbean's Perfect Day at Coco Cay, Private Out Island. Okay. And what they're doing is they're promoting this ship, this new ship, Star of the Seas, as more of a ultimate family vacation. So keep that in mind too. That's important. And also, Icon, as mentioned, has some neat neighborhoods. Half dozen water slides. They've got a 3-level ultimate family townhouse with an in-suite slide. Also some reimagined interiors too. But once again, with the Icon of the Seas coming out in January this next year, 2024, she's actually 250,800 gross tons. As mentioned, she's the world's largest cruise ship. She will debut in January 2024. And once again, as far as the Star of the Seas, they're still working on that. They just announced that's their new second Icon class ship. She will be debuting actually in 2025 in the summer. That's a good note too. So keep that in mind too, because that's another good example of ships coming out, which is great. And I know we have more ships coming out, which I'll share more about later in a future episode. Mark, any questions for me or not yet? Besides the single stateroom areas, which is great, and also honoring our veterans, which is great. Also, I mentioned something about the future cruises. You can actually book a future cruise or on a ship, and then you put a deposit down, and they offer some perks when you do that. But once again, too, if you work with a travel advisor, the good thing is you still work with your travel advisor. So that's really wonderful, too. So I think people need to be aware of that, too, because once again, we're doing some wonderful things in the industry, and I just think it's one of many reasons why you should think about going on a cruise. so many choices as far as itineraries, and people ask me, okay, what's the best ship? But once again, it goes back to what do you really want to experience when you're on board, and even off board the ship too? Because once again, with the new icon of the seas, they're really focusing this more on the ultimate, I think, family vacation. But once again, with different cruise lines, some really attract more adults. It depends. And with the cruise industry too, of course, we do have choices not just in the Caribbean, but worldwide too, which is great. And another example would be with the river cruises, because once again, we have a couple of very successful river cruise lines, been around for a long time. One I mentioned is AMA Waterways. They've been around for over 20 years now. And then we've got also American Cruise Lines, which is US based in the East Coast, family owned. And they also own the company that builds their ships too, but they're smaller ships. They sail in the US waterways too, which is great. And they've got some new ships coming out too, which is great. So if you want to maybe sail within the US, that's one option as far as river cruises in the US. Also, as mentioned, when we talk about Europe, other areas, river cruising in Europe is a great way to really experience Europe, because once again, the ship that you're on takes you to different places. So once again, if you have taken maybe a tour or maybe a trip over to Europe, then what do you do if you want to see different places? You actually have to go from one place to another place, stay at different hotels. Where in this case, with the river cruises in Europe, one of the benefits is the the river cruise line ship actually, your stateroom is your room, and they sail in different areas, so you don't have to hop back and forth on different hotels, which is great. And once again, they have great ways to really explore these different areas, shore excursions. They usually include them. Another one is a lot of times they might have bikes for you to ride too, which is great. And also, usually what they do too is the river cruise lines over Europe, they prefer you fly in a day before, which makes more sense, because then if you have some issues, you're there earlier, which is great. And even like maybe staying a day after your ship disembarkation takes place too. So that's just, I think, a great way to think about maybe exploring different areas that maybe you didn't want to maybe hop and stay at different hotels all the time. So keep that in mind too, because that's really important more than ever, I think. And like I said, we're seeing a surge as far as travel. A good example I shared was actually with Virgin Voyages, and they mentioned they've got more bookings now ever before for future cruises, about 50%, which is great, because you can actually book your future cruise on board the ship you're on with that cruise line. And once again, you put a small deposit down. That way, you've got your ship, your cruise reserved, but you get some really, really wonderful amenities that come up too. And also, once again, you don't necessarily have to pick out the ship right then and there. You've got the future cruise credit. Deposit is down, and you can actually think about where you want to go if you haven't decided on board the ship too. And also, as mentioned, if you are working with a travel advisor, your booking from that future cruise desk automatically gets back to the travel advisor agency you're working with too, which is great. So it just is a great way to really think about maybe getting some extra little perks too, which is great. And as far as holiday sailings, of course, we got wonderful ones coming up now, getting into November and December. One thing about if you want to take maybe a cruise over the holidays is usually they tend to sell out. So definitely keep that in mind. For instance, if you wanted to sail on a Christmas or New Year's cruise, they're probably sold out. So in those cases, you want to perhaps think about booking a future cruise of the holidays much farther out. That's important too, because we're seeing that more than ever. People are booking things farther out, which is great, not last minute. Also, sometimes cruise lines might do a last minute discount. One thing I've seen too recently was Princess Cruises is really focusing on not offering last minute discounts, because once again, too, is sometimes if people book farther out in advance, they might not get that, and then they feel like they've been um, not being taken care of. But once again, Princess just mentioned that they are not doing these last minute discounts. And I think that's good, because that really, I think, provides more loyalty to existing clients that book farther out in advance too. And that's very important too. So keep that in mind too, because that's very important. I think after we got through the pandemic, of course, people were maybe wanting to. They had gone through not being able to travel, so maybe they were booking things last minute. But I think now we're seeing a trend of people booking further out, especially if you want to get on one of these newer ships coming out too. But booking further out, I think we're seeing a trend more about that than ever before. So definitely keep that in mind because that's really important too, as far as how far do you book? Do you want to do a last minute cruise or not? But sometimes, once again, cruises tend to sell out. Also, it depends on where you want to go to. If you're not booking far out, you might have some issues as far as your flights, airfare, because once again, we've seen airfare costs go up. And of course, if you're trying to go to Europe, that can be an issue too. So once again, just keep things in mind. And I think thinking about where you want to go, maybe even next year, keep that in mind and get things kind of together in your mind where you want to go, the itinerary, where would you depart from, return from. It would be U.S. or Caribbean, perhaps. Of course, you can do Europe, and we're seeing different things coming up in different areas too. Australia. Tahiti is another one, which is great. My parents got a chance to do Tahiti cruises several times over the years. Also, Antarctica. Keep that in mind because that is really growing like crazy. And the cruise lines that offer Antarctic cruises as special ships that they've built, they're more expedition type, but they're also very luxury. And they're not big ships. Usually with the expedition cruises, they tend to be smaller ships, maybe accommodate 100 to 200 guests, which is important too. And we've got different cruise lines that offer that too. I mentioned Atlas Ocean Voyages just christened their newest ship, and they're getting ready to do Antarctic cruises coming up soon. Also, we have Lindblad Expeditions that does that too, and other ships do that too. So keep that in mind too, because I know Antarctica is really, I think, growing like crazy as far as the interest in it. It's a different way to really see that area. Plus, they limit the number of guests on board those types of cruises. So keep that in mind, because once again, it's a way to really kind of imbibe, really kind of explore with special travel guides that actually work on the ships that take you different places too. Of course, one cruise line, they let you do a polar plunge if you want to. I don't think I would do it myself in Antarctica, but once again, keep that in mind in the future because Antarctica is really, really surging as far as interest with people. It might be on a person's bucket list, so to speak, but once again, it's a great way to really see a different type of place of the world. But once again, the cruise lines that are doing these, we're not looking at big ships going there, of course. As mentioned, 100 guests, 200 guests at the most, and also when they go there, of course, they have limited number of people that actually get off the ship at a time, things to do on board too. But once again, it's a great way to really explore, I think, and see another place of the world maybe you hadn't thought about going to. So keep that in mind too. As far as another ship that's coming out too, it's we have one Disney Cruise Line. Their newest ship, which is going to be coming out, it's going to be called the Disney Treasure, and she's actually the sister ship of I think Disney Wish, which came out in 2022. The Disney Treasure will be sailing as a sister ship to the Disney Wish in December of 2024, and yet they've also got a third ship, hasn't been named yet, that's going to be on the horizon for 2025. So if you ever sailed on Disney Cruise Lines, they do a beautiful job. It's geared, of course, more to families, but once again, they also have adult-only areas too, which I thought was great. I sailed on Disney when they first came out with their first ship. But with the Disney Treasure, it's really going to be all about adventure. And their narratives are kind of inspired by Aladdin, Coco, Zootopia. And what they're doing with the Disney Treasure is going to bring new stories to life, including really one-of-a-kind experiences with extraordinary entertainment, world-class dining, and really hospitality that make every sailing memorable, which is great. And once again, it's just a great way to really kind of, if you've got a passion for Disney anyway, but see it, they've got beautiful entertainment. The entertainment is phenomenal, just amazing. And like I said, the Disney Treasure is going to sail on her maiden voyage. It's going to be a week-long Eastern Caribbean sailing from Port Canaveral, and she'll sail on that special inaugural maiden voyage on December 21st of 2024. And you can actually make a booking right now. Bookings are actually open on Disney on September, let's see, I think September 12th, but it's great to keep that in mind too, because once again, as far as the treasure, it's going to have 1,256 staterooms. They have 4 different categories as far as their staterooms. They've also got, like I said, they're going to have Disney film classics such as Aladdin, Pocahontas, Up, and Encantado. Also, their concierge category has 4 royal suites, and what they do is they can actually take on the characters of from the Lion King, Jungle Book, Aladdin, and once again, um, the they've got their Raja Royal Suite. But they've got different types of accommodations too. And as far as activities, um, central to Treasure, as they do on the Disney Wish, they've got their Grand Hall atrium, but this time it's going to be resemble um, from the original Aladdin animated film. And also near the Grand Hall, they're going to be swapping it with Wishes Luna, and it'll be called the Treasures. I think it's pronounced Sarabi, and that's about the Linus matriarch for Lion King. But just what they're doing is they're doing some wonderful things on board the Disney Treasure coming out. Something else they mentioned was they're going to have multiple pools, terrace pools on board, and they'll also be on hand to beat the heat. They've got their slide. Sorry, Rex, okay, and it's like a smaller, I think, kiddie-style water slide with a toddler-friendly Toy Story splash zone, which is great. And then they've got their Outlook Cove pool, which is just for their adults-only area too. So keep that in mind, because once again, what I love about Disney when I sailed on the first ship in the late 1990s is they had adults only areas too, besides kids areas, family areas, but adults only area too, which is great. So once again, what they're doing too is they actually have, as far as activities, Disney's signature fireworks display. They call it their Pirates Rockin' Parlay Party. And plus, they've got youth activities, of course, in their Disney's Oceaneer Club, Edge Vibe, and It's a Small World Nursery. Also, they've got a game show style physical challenge that will take place in the Hero Zone. Also, they've got their spa. It's their Scent Spa and a fitness center. Also, the Untangled Salon, and they've got Hooks Barbery. Okay, so you get things done too if you want to. And they've got different restaurants aboard too. As far as restaurants, they mention they've got the Worlds of Marvel, yes, and it's featuring a new experience. Going to reveal more about later, but also once again they're going to have rotation restaurants, and these include Treasures complimentary all ages dining. The third eatery is going to be the new Plaza de Coco, replacing Arendelle, and then they got a frozen dining venture, which is also on board the Disney Wish, and then they've got Plaza de Coco actually features traditional Mexican cuisine as well as a modern twist, and they will feature a live musical performances straight from Pixar's Coco animated film too. And they've got a multi-dining experience in their Plaza de Coco, and that features Miguel and his family from the Mariachi Plaza, and that's based on the events of the movie, and that's during the first night. And then once again, they mentioned that they've got a special fiesta with Miguel. Also, they've got their Palo Steakhouse, and they've got their Enchanté by Chef Aman, and that's going to be kind of reprising from the Disney Wish. It's the ship's adult-only restaurants, as well as Coco Cave, so people can actually stay away from children if they want to too. Once again, they've got wonderful things they're doing too, and that's really fun too, because once again, as mentioned, you've got adult-only areas, plus you've got family areas, special kids areas too. And as far as the bars and lounges with the Disney Treasure, they're going to have The Rose is going to return as adults only bar service, and they've got Paulo and Enchante with before and after dinner drinks. Also, fresh on Treasure Disney Treasures, the Skipper Society and their Periscope Pub, and the former will be Jungle Cruise inspiring watering hole near their Grand Hall. It's a replacement from the Disney Wishes Bayou, and here patrons can actually enjoy the classic attractions with other references to the monkey-shaped chandelier, which is great. Also cocktails. And as far as a Periscope Pub, it's featuring bringing to life the 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea live action cinema classic, and also a theme park ride, a retired theme park ride. Also, patrons can find all sorts of Captain Nemo and Nautilus memorabilia there too. Also, they've got a pair of coffee bars inspired by Moana and Mulan, and those are going to be adjacent to the Grand Hall. And then they've got the Heli Cafe, which is reflective blues. It's like a Polynesian type of atmosphere furnishings too. And then J Cricket Cafe, yes, is going to have a Lucky Cricket sculpture. So to keep that in mind too. As far as onboard entertainment, Disney does a wonderful job on their ships. And what they're doing is, as far as theatrical entertainment, it's a return to the favorites of Beauty and the Beast. Also, Disney Sees the Adventure, plus a new Broadway step show that's actually based, it's housed in the Walt Disney Theater. It's going to be called Disney, The Tale of Moana. And then what they're doing too is they've got production that's going to be exclusive to this ship, and it's going to be with Maui and Tamala. And once again, too, they've got different onboard entertainment. So definitely keep that in mind, too, because Disney's entertainment is just phenomenal. And once again, Disney will have their classic films and blockbusters be shown both in the Wonderland Cinema, also the Neverland Cinema, and the Funnel Vision, which is perched above the pool deck for larger-than-life screenings. If you've ever taken a cruise and seen a movie aboard the cruise outside, it is phenomenal. I did that once when Princess Cruises first started. It was great because you could actually watch movies, of course, during the day on the big screens outside by the pools, but then they did some special things at night where they gave us fresh popcorn, drinks, plus blankets. Got too little cold, but definitely keep that in mind too, because I can think of a better way to really kind of relax and enjoy a cruise. Take a break, watch a movie, and you can watch it from outdoors, which is great too, usually by the pool areas, but they got big screens now more than ever. It's just a phenomenal way to really experience watching a movie. I think one of the best examples I have that I did myself was actually when I was sailing on a Caribbean cruise. Had a couple of days at sea, and one of the days at sea, one of the movies they actually showed was actually Pirates of the Caribbean. Now, how fun is it to actually sail in the Caribbean and then watch Pirates of the Caribbean, which is great. And the water's matched too, which is great too. But it's fun to watch Pirates of the Caribbean when you're sailing in the Caribbean, and just a wonderful experience. And once again, cruise lines are really focused on having bigger screens. It's by the pool areas, and a great way to really relax in your lounge chairs, whatever, too. So you have to keep that in mind, too, because that's really, I think, a phenomenal thing, too, with Disney announcing more about their new ship coming out in 2024 in December, the Disney Treasure. And she definitely sounds like she is going to be a Disney treasure, a treasure. So keep that in mind, too. Mark, any questions for me yet or not? You can think of, as far as we've talked about before, as far as veterans and new ships coming out, choices as far as where you want to sail, the types of cruises, anything else you can think of too. Because another ship coming out, of course, in 2024 is going to be the Sun Princess. I think I shared more about that too recently. I'll share more about that in a future episode, but something that just came up with Princess Cruises is what they did was on They just had one of the ships, the Regal Princess, arrived in Galveston on November 5th. And it really is kind of a milestone cruise for Princess Cruises, because this actually was a, a milestone, because it was the largest Princess cruise ship that actually was ever based in Texas. And carrying 3,560 guests, Regal Princess offers round-trip voyages to the Western Caribbean through March of 24, which is great. And what they're doing is they've got anticipated 70,000 cruisers sailing aboard the Love Boat, this Love Boat, from this beautiful scenic Texas home port. So keep that in mind as far as Galveston, Texas. You can sail out of Galveston, Texas. And once again, with Princess Cruises, the Regal Princess just arrived in Galveston on November 3rd, and she's now offering sailings from Galveston, Texas to the Western Caribbean. When they did this big celebration, what they did was they had different people there, including their celebrations ambassador, Jill Whalen, host a traditional maritime plaque exchange. And once again, too, is Princess mentioned, which you might not be aware of, but actually they started sailing out of Galveston nearly 20 years ago. And Princess loves Texas, and they know Texans really, really enjoy the convenience of having the Love Boat close to offering a hassle-free drive or convenient fly option to enjoy the beautiful destinations that are in the Western Caribbean, which is where the Regal Princess is now sailing from. Once again, we have more options sailing out of U.S. ports. So if you prefer more to maybe drive to that port rather than flying, and like I said, we're in a better spot right now than we were last year when we had different issues, unfortunately, with flight delays and cancellations. Once again, sometimes people would rather just fly to a port and then a city where the ship docks, and then just take the ship from there and then drive back, because we're seeing more of that too. And as mentioned, Port Canaveral is one example too. That's about an hour and a half away from Orlando at the most, and it's served as a huge port too, which is great. So once again, you got different options. You can now take cruises out of Galveston, Texas more than ever. Also, keep in mind traditional ones are Miami, Fort Lauderdale. We're seeing some from Tampa. Also is Port Canaveral, that's huge. And we're seeing more ships sailing from New York, which is great. A good example is the MSC Meraviglia. They brought her in, and I was actually able to see that ship back on, I think, April 21st, which is great. So it was great to see the ship, and she's sailing around from New York, offering different cruises. When she started, she's offering Bermuda cruises and going down to the Caribbean. So keep that in mind, too, because you've got different options more than ever. And with Princess Cruises, like I said, they've got some really good things that they're doing, too. And with the Regal Princess, as mentioned, when she, on November, she's offering a series of 21 voyages from Galveston, and these range from 7 to 12-day cruises, and they are visiting right now different destinations in the Western Caribbean and Mexico, like Cozumel, Costa Maya, Roatán, and then also they can choose some special holiday sailings over Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's. Also, they've got a special love and romance celebration theme cruise with the Love Boat Love Ambassador and bridal fashion icon Randy Finoli, which is departing in December 3rd. He's hosting different events on board, and his personal success story and the tips on how to choose the right wedding gown, and even debut the special Randy cocktail. And once again, it's really, I think, great, because once again, with Princess Cruises, they really are an iconic cruise line. And once again, I think that's how people got to know about the cruising industry too, because you think back to cruising years and years ago, what did you think about? Maybe you thought about ships that would come over from maybe Europe, okay, to the US. But then things took a different pulse, and we started seeing cruises that sailed out of the Caribbean, and that's how I think the cruise industry really started growing. Also, I think what helped out too was the Love Boat television series too. In fact, that's how I actually got hooked on cruising too, because I used to love watching Love Boat. When I was going to grad school, I'd come home, watch Love Boat reruns myself to relax. But it's great. And once again, too, is I think the Love Boat TV show really helped out bring that what's cruising all about more than ever to people's minds, and things took off. As far as the Regal Princess itself, she is actually a 142 2029 ton registered ship. She has 19 decks, and she features ocean views from more than 1,400 stateroom balconies. Guests can actually stroll along the sea walk, which is great. It's a glass floor walkway extending 28 feet beyond the edge of the ship. They can take a really inviting dip into the top deck pools, hot tubs. Also, relax in the sanctuary retreat, which is reserved just for adults. I've seen those, are beautiful. And also, with the ship, they've got different way of dining options and also different types of entertainment aboard. And once again, with their medallion class service, it really offers different options for people too. So once again, keep that in mind too as far as future cruising, because we've got a lot of growth when it comes to Galveston, Texas. Also, Port Canaveral is taking off like crazy, which is great. And of course, with Alaska, we've got choices of Vancouver, of course, and also Seattle. Once again, the Alaskan season is now over. It will start back up again in 2024, usually in May. But with Alaska season, it's usually May to November because then it gets too cold. But once again, keep that in mind too, because you've got so many options. And with Alaska, you can actually take Inside Passage cruise, which I did myself. They actually do maybe go up a couple days earlier, go further up, take tours, and just really wonderful things to do too. And then take a cruise from there down back to either Vancouver, Seattle, or do the opposite way too. So keep that in mind too, because once again, Alaska is gorgeous, beautiful places to see, explore, wonderful destinations too, and it's just a really beautiful area to see too. It's one place I do want to go back to myself. So keep that in mind. Mark, any questions yet or not? Are we pretty good now as far as what we've covered so far in my show today? As far as honoring our veterans, of course, new ships coming out, and of course, choices. And I think, once again, it goes back to so many choices out there, too. And keep that in mind when you're thinking about taking a future cruise, because, once again, things tend to open up now for at least a year in advance, sometimes even longer than that, too. So keep that in mind if you think about taking a future cruise, because you can book far in advance. You put a deposit down. Your final balance is usually due about 90 days before you sail. And once again, you ship choices as far as if you want to, if you need to fly or drive, figure that out too. And you can actually book your airfare usually, sometimes maybe a year in advance, it depends. Or you can actually take the option of booking the airline through the reservations through the cruise line too. There are different options. Also, something that comes up a lot too is definitely, if you are thinking about taking a trip, including a cruise, definitely invest in some kind of a travel insurance program policy. That is important because, once again, we see cruise lines. Now, if you happen to miss your ship, or something comes up last minute, it gives you the option to cancel, get some reimbursement too, which is great. But definitely, if you are taking a trip or taking a cruise, definitely take a look into travel insurance policies. And as far as one suggestion, I use Allianz, which is great. Some other ones out there too, but I always tell people, they say what to do about the insurance. Years ago, when I worked as a travel advisor myself, I would always tell people, well, I think you need to use a separate travel insurance company to book your travel insurance through, because you don't want to put and purchase the travel insurance through the company or cruise line you're sailing on, because a long time ago, one thing came up with a cruise line went under and people lost their money because if they purchased the insurance, it didn't cover them anymore. And the point is, you don't want to insure yourself with the company you're using. Use a separate travel insurance company. I'm happy to share more about that too, because once again, I always purchase cruise insurance when I'm booking my cruise. Also, once again, besides booking it for a specific trip, different insurance companies in the travel industry do have year-long policies, and I just renewed mine earlier in October to cover me for another year. In this case, when I'm going to conferences, something comes up, or maybe my flight got delayed and I misconnect, whatever, then they would actually cover that for me too, which is great. So once again, if you're traveling a lot just for small trips or maybe business, whatever, too, definitely think about maybe getting a year-long policy for insurance. You can still get one for a specific trip, which is great too. But once again, you want to protect yourself so you don't miss out on maybe disconnecting. That happened to me myself actually last year. My flight was leaving at 5:30 in the evening after I got off the ship in the morning, did a tour, got on board the flight, and we're in the runway for an hour, and the flight attendants came on, so we're going to be leaving finally, but we left an hour late. Well, unfortunately, I was connecting with a flight in another city, and I was worried about missing my connecting flight, but there's nothing left. So I asked the flight attendants, they said, well, when you get off the flight, just run to the gate. Well, what happened was I got off the flight. I then got a text message from the airline that I missed my flight connecting, and they're putting my flight the next morning. I went to the gate, and they said, well, we're sorry, there's nothing we can do. But thank goodness I did take travel insurance. I found a hotel 11 o'clock at night, got the hotel, checked out 3:30 to get ready to take their free shuttle to back to the airport about 4:30, 5 o'clock. Got on my flight. In my case, I had travel insurance, so I was able to then submit a claim for it, and I got reimbursed for the hotel. So definitely think about that too. As far as insurance, you need it more than ever. Mark, any questions for me?
Yeah, what's going on with AI as far as the whole boat industry and the cruise industry? Are you seeing a lot of people using AI, and are there any particular celebrations around uh, VA and the veterans and all in that? So that was
Right.
one of the questions we actually went in AI and Spirit Hay class. Curious as to what's going on in the AI space. That you're seeing a lot of cruises that are giving you a chance to do things in the whole computer field, and maybe even they're using AI as part of their marketing. In those.
It varies. In fact, they covered that a lot last week in the conference I was at. Because once again, artificial intelligence can't provide everything, and there's some things that maybe they can't provide for you. Once again, you can do for some research. But once again, it goes back to I really believe that sometimes TripAdvisor might use a little bit too, but the point is you still need to get the correct information. Artificial intelligence might not give you the correct information. So once again, it goes back to I think you can do some search too, but then reach out to a professional travel advisor because once again, they know all the insider things going on too.
It makes a lot of sense. Like I said, it was being over here at the center, and they were talking about that,
Right,
along those
right.
lines. But there's even the hospitality industry. I know that over there in Las Vegas, there is a strike that's going on with some of the hospitality workers, and of course, hospitality is a big part of the cruise industry as well. So this is
Right.
how the
They
cruise
yeah, they did discuss it at Cruise World last week, brought some key points to think about too. Once again, I don't think anything is going to replace a travel advisor because once again, artificial intelligence can't do everything. I've actually done some training programs myself with Chat GPT and artificial intelligence. I just started doing something else too, just to kind of learn what to do too. You can do it to kind of do some research, but the point is, with artificial intelligence, they might not know all the ins and outs. And that's one thing a travel advisor can do for you if you're booking something. So, yeah, I definitely keep that in mind because once again, it's good for certain things, but it's not going to replace a human being.
you can go wrong
You
with
can use it as a tool, but once again, it's still not going to um, replace a human being. I mean, the point is, it goes back to even with insurance. I mean, if you buy insurance for your house, your car, who do you talk to? You deal with a professional, right?
it. That
Again,
makes a lot of sense.
purchase,
One of
but
the other things that you talked about, Cindy, and everything is pickleball. And I did see that there was a
yes,
pickleball going on here, and I'd love to hear your thoughts around that, because a lot of people apparently are getting involved in that as well. So I'd love to hear your thoughts around pickleball and how that is becoming a popular sport for a number of people.
it really is. It's grown like crazy. In fact, you hear a lot of cruise lines that actually have pickleball areas too. Another good example on that one is with the waterways.
Yeah,
They're a very successful river cruise line. They've been around over 22 years. They're privately owned. Co-founders, I have got to know Rudy Schreiner, the co-founder, co-owner, and then Christine Kuntz, his wife, who became a partner. And but the good thing is, they actually have a pickleball court on their ships too, which is great. It's going. It's taking off like crazy.
Yep.
It is. And once again, it's just another area because with cruise ships, what's nice too is you got pool areas. And it comes back to like Royal Caribbean. A good example too is they've got different areas too. You can actually you play not just pickleball on board the ships, but actually tennis. Different things you can play on board their ships too. Golf, a little bit. They have a little miniature golfing type thing too. And they got their flow rider, which is actually it's actually almost like surfing, but not really surfing on the ship. And you can actually surf up and down, up and down. But and also one thing they did too is on Royal Caribbean they've got this I forgot what it's called. I can't remember what it's called. Oh
Well,
yeah,
that is,
you can do
yes, that's
bowling.
amazing.
Yep. Bowling on board cruise ships, yes too. And bowling areas too, and inside like a little bowling to bowl if you want to. Different things like that too. Tennis, pickleball is a big one now too, and also like usually like a miniature golf course too, which is great. And we're just relaxed by the pools in different areas, and they've got water slides like crazy. It's just amazing what they're doing as far as ships too. So
It's amazing what they're doing and everything. Well, like I said, I'm here to turn it back over to you. And along those lines, but that was a great conversation and get some great insights. Next time we'll have some more update commercials, but we'll probably close out with one of the usual ones that we go out with and everything. When you're ready, I'm ready to pop off and we'll just have some more conversation. That's all about
okay, that'd be great too, because like I said, just exciting with Celebrity Cruises taking. They actually it got the signing. They actually took possession of the Celebrity Ascent. She will be christened on December 1st, of course, in Fort Lauderdale. And they have two godmothers. They're sisters. They're christening the ship. And this is a ship, by the way, that has actually the two co-captains. And when Celebrity Cruises today just acquired the ship, did the signing for it, the two co-captains were there too, which is great. So that's fun. I'll be actually on board the ship on November 29th to December 1st, too, which is great. Can't wait to meet the captains. They will be on board. I was told that, so that's good, too. So, once again, great things coming up. And, think about it as far as, taking future cruise and booking further out. Of course, that's important. So, you don't miss out on maybe some special things you want to do. And there's so many options out there. People always ask me, what's the best cruise? Well, it goes back to what do you want to see, do, experience. Sometimes, if you've never taken a cruise, people feel more comfortable with a shorter cruise, 3 or 4 night cruises, which is fine. That's what I did my first cruise too. In my case, I prefer usually 10 night cruises if I can, which is great. But just keep that in mind because there's so many options out there. And once again, you'll probably do some initial searches with artificial intelligence, AI, but also I think end of the day, you need to really think about finding a professional televisor to use because once again, artificial intelligence is good for certain things, but once again, it's still not going to replace the human being, and we need that more than ever. So definitely keep that in mind too. And with options booking on board Future Cruise too, you can do that too. I've done that myself too, which is great. You just put a deposit down, you get some extra perks, which is great. And then even if you don't decide on the ship you want to sail on, you can decide on doing that later, which is great. So keep that in mind too, because once again, it builds excitement. If you've got something booked farther out, to me, it always builds excitement because you have something to look forward to too. So definitely keep that in mind too, because it's a good option too. And I've done it before. I love it. And also, once again, keep things in mind as far as travel insurance. Definitely need it. You do need it. I mean, you don't want to use it, but sometimes I have actually had to use it myself. One time I was actually flying and I checked my bags in with the sky cabs outside. I'd been flying a couple days before, I was a little tired, and I should have taken my bag tags. I didn't get on board the flight and got down to my airport and then went to the baggage place to pick up my luggage. My bags didn't come out. And I checked my bag tags. Unfortunately, shame on me, I realized they sent it to a different airport. So I reached out to them. They were able to actually reroute my luggage back, but the problem is I was going to be getting on the ship that evening. My luggage wasn't going to make it, so I was able to actually go to a couple of different places, buy some clothing, whatever. And then what they did was the airline I was booked on, worked with the airline. They got my luggage mailed out sent to me in my first protocol in St. Thomas, Reeves Virgin Islands, on Monday. And this is actually happened to me on a Friday, but the good thing is my luggage should get delivered to my cabin, which is great. But I learned a lot. And once again, too, is, check your bag tags. And I know there are actually some companies you actually use to actually send your luggage in advance. There's one that does it in Fort Lauderdale at the airport. So definitely on that too, because once again, people don't realize that comes up too. And I know last year had some issues with bags getting misplaced, not getting around to the right place too. So definitely keep that in mind too, because once again, we do depend on clothes. When my situation came up with my airline not getting, they routed my bags to the wrong airport, I was able to get some compensation with the travel insurance company, which helped me out too. So definitely keep that in mind, because once again, some things won't come up. We can't really, sometimes they come up unexpectedly, you don't know. But once again, that's why I think travel insurance is very, very important, and definitely use it. Once again, remember that artificial intelligence is important, but once again, keep in mind that at the end of the day, we still need to deal with professionals. So keep that in mind too. And until next week's episode, let's make sure that we also appreciate our veterans on Veterans Day tomorrow in the United States too. Keep that in mind too. That's important too. And in my episode next week, I'll be sharing more about the Sun Princess, which is Princess Cruises' new ship coming out next year, and also some other cruise ships coming out too, updates on what they're doing, and also as far as as mentioned, the solo areas are just really, I think, taking off like crazy, which is good. So it's a positive. And I think people are really excited about taking a trip. Looking further out is better, because once again, as mentioned, with Princess Cruises, they're really not, they're really trying to avoid those last minute discounts. They want people to really book farther in advance and really be able to plan better too. Because if you take a cruise last minute, once again, it really pushes you as far as planning things kind of last minute, and that gets a little frustrating sometimes too, and very stressful. In this case, just think about where you want to go next year. Definitely think about maybe taking a cruise, because more ships coming out, different options, different ports to sail from. You have an option if you want to drive to that port city, or always take an option to fly to. Another good example, we talked about it before, is with Brightline trains. Yes, and as mentioned, they've got service now up to Orlando from southern Florida, which is great. So once again, keep that in mind too, because Brightline Trains is a phenomenal option. They're going to be offering expanding more areas too down the year in the future years. But Brightline Trains is really a fantastic experience to really go through too, and it's just very relaxing, beautiful. The big luxury leather seats, which is great. But they do wonderful things, so definitely keep that in mind too. So once again, it gives you options to think about in the future too.
Yeah, we're ready to wrap up. I know that that's from another show, but we're going to wrap up and get to your videos and all along those lines. But yeah, this has been a amazing conversations that you've been having and all along those lines. So definitely looking forward to seeing many more conversations in this space and along these lines. So I know that you've been talking about what's going on in the cruise industry, and folks have been very impressed because you always have great knowledge and all in that kind of way. So we're definitely looking forward to having some more conversations on next week, back at our regular time, unless you have some other things going on and all in that space. But definitely, I know a lot of folks are very excited, and we're looking forward to seeing you back again with some more great content and all along those lines. So definitely get ready to get on out of here and see what's going on in that space. And I'll try to find the video to wrap us on up and all in that kind of way. But if you hold on one second, because apparently the computer is having a moment, because we're talking about technology was having a moment in all
Yes,
that line. So if you hold on one
right.
second, I'll be right back, and we'll see if technology can work correctly and all in that way.
That's good. Sometimes technology takes its time, but like I said, there's just so many wonderful things that we've got going on in the industry. And as I mentioned, the one example, of course, was with the Royal Caribbean transporting Americans out of Israel via one of their ships, and that ship that they let were being used was their Rhapsody of the Seas, which is great. So it's just like an incredible effort for them to do to help people get out of Israel, which is a wonderful gesture too.
Yeah, no doubt. We're back with the right logo. I think we'll go out with the captains. So let's go out with the captains and all in that space. But it's been a great show. I look forward to seeing you back on next week with some more great conversation.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
I am thrilled to be here today to announce the captain of Celebrity Ascent, the Amazing Edge series. They bring their own spirit and energy to the ship and our crew. And so I would like to eliminate all the suspense and announce that the captain of Celebrity Ascent is Captain Kafajis. Oh, did I forget to say there are two of them? For the first time ever, Celebrity Cruises has two captains. So gentlemen, I happen to know you both really, really well. We've worked together for 15 or 16 years. And a lot of our guests have sailed with you, and some of them know a little bit about you, but they nor I know a lot about you. So let's roll video and learn about your amazing lives.
My name is Dimitrios Kafajis. I am from Port of Athens, Piraeus, in Greece. I graduated the Captain's Academy of Syros, and I am a captain with Celebrity Cruises for the last 19 years. 33 years altogether at sea with Celebrity Cruises. My personal milestone and best moment was when I became a captain at the age of 36, being by then the youngest and by far the funniest captain on the fleet, only to live enough to have my brother breaking this record at the age of 34. Bless you, Tassos. I will never forget you for this. My relationship with my brother can be described as father-son relationship and not brothers, since we have 11 years difference with Tassos. I know my pretty face fool you, but there are 11 years difference. When I first heard that I was going to be the captain of the Ascent, and together with my brother, two brothers, to start a ship for the company we love.
My name is Tassos Kafajis, and I'm a captain on board Celebrity Cruises. The reason I came to the maritime industry is because of my brother. He's my role model. I was so influenced by him, so I applied for Celebrity Cruises that my brother was working already. And I joined Celebrity Century back in 1998, once it was brand new. And I moved on, and 25 years later, here I am as a captain. Since we became a captain, we didn't have the opportunity to work together, and we're always saying how fun it would be if we could do a contract together, even as captains. Now, to do that together with an opening of the newest vessel of Celebrity Cruises, it's like a dream come true.
When he first became a captain, I gave him a Mont Blanc pen and a warring bead with a cross and an evil eye, and I said to him, have it in your pocket, and when you think that you are helpless, just put your hand in your pocket, rub it, and you're gonna be there.
You mean this one? That's you?
Yep.
Him.
I will say that I might be the prototype, but he is the newer, better version. Captain 2.0, if I may say.
He changed the way captains interact with their guests and the crew. He opened up a big window for all the captains to follow.
Not only congratulations, but thank you. It's such a pleasure and an honor to work with both of you every day, and I can't wait to be on the stage with you on Celebrity Ascent.
Yes.
I bet, knowing the two of you, you are going to have a lot of fun with the guests.
When we both would be dressed up as captains on the ship, I will go talk to them first, and then I claim that I had to go, leave, and Tassos come back, and carry on what I started, and see if they're going to pick it up. And I guarantee you,
Are they going to get a prize or something if they do pick it up?
They're going to get a dinner with the captain.
Oh, how fun! There you
With
go.
this captain.
With that captain.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome aboard. This is your Captain Cafegis of the Celebrity Ascent.
No. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome aboard. This is your captain, Captain Cafegis of the Celebrity